And we are back. Welcome to another episode of Before You Buy, that show where we dive into the deep end of the latest releases. We die 100 times so you don't have to. And we give you some straight-up gameplay and our first impressions. Today, we are looking at something that might have slipped under your radar. It's called Blightstone. Now, if you look at the Steam page for this game, you might be tempted to scroll past. It describes itself as a tactical RPG with roguelite elements in a grimdark fantasy world. And let's be honest, in 2024, that is a dime a dozen. We are drowning in roguelites. We are drowning in deck builders and grid-based strategy games. But I decided to download the demo, boot it up, and 5 hours later, I realized I had forgotten to eat dinner. Blightstone is deceptive. What looks like a standard indie project on the surface is actually one of the most mechanically crunchy, punishing, and rewarding tactical games I have played this year. It feels like someone took the base defense tension of the last spell, mixed it with the dungeon-crawling dread of Darkest Dungeon, and wrapped it all up in a time loop narrative. But it is not perfect. It has some severe difficulty spikes, a meta progression system that might make some of you angry, and an audio identity crisis. So, is this game the next hidden gem, or is it just another grind fest? We are going to break down the combat, the crystal mechanic, the story, and the performance. This is Blightstone. Let's get into it. Let's start with the setup. You know the drill. The world is ending. A Sauron-esque Dark Lord is about to extinguish all life. Standard fantasy stuff, right? But Blightstone frames this through the lens of a chronomancer, a time mage. You aren't just a random party of heroes, you are a simulation. Or rather, you are the latest attempt in a long line of failed attempts to save the world. The chronomancer is rewinding time, again and again, trying to find the perfect combination of heroes, the perfect path, and the perfect strategy to break the cycle. While this time loop narrative is a bit of a trope in roguelites, think Hades or Into the Breach, Blightstone actually puts a surprising amount of effort into the writing. I was expecting throwaway text boxes, but the dialogue between your party members is genuinely fleshed out. There is a lot of exposition about the world, the history of the corruption, and small narrative events that pop up during your run. Now, let's talk about the mechanic that defines the entire game. The thing that will make you love it or hate it. The crystal. In Blightstone, you are on an escort mission. The entire game is one long escort mission. I can hear you groaning already. Escort missions are the worst part of any game. Usually I would agree, but here it works because the crystal isn't just a fragile box you have to protect. It is the fourth member of your party. The crystal is sentient. It takes up a slot on the battlefield. It has its own turn, and most importantly, it has its own skill tree. You can build your crystal in 3 distinct ways. The warrior crystal. You can turn this thing into a floating murder rock that bashes enemies and deals damage. The healer. It pulses out regeneration waves to keep your flesh and blood heroes alive. The support buffer. It provides action points, AP, or defensive buffs to your team. This completely changes the tactical dynamic. You aren't just standing in front of the crystal to block hits. You are positioning it aggressively to nuke enemies, or hiding it behind a rock to heal your archer. However, if the crystal dies, the run is over. Immediately. The AI knows this. And this is where the game gets mean. The enemy AI is programmed to hate that crystal. If you leave a gap in your defense, the enemies will ignore your tank, run right past your DPS, and suicide bomb the crystal. It forces you to play defensively and offensively at the same time, creating this constant tension that is frankly addictive. Let's dig into the combat, because this is undeniably the game's strongest pillar. If you like Final Fantasy Tactics, XCOM, or Divinity Original Sin, you are going to feel right at home here. The game operates on an action point system. You have your standard blue action point for movement and attacks, and you have special star points for free actions. Managing this action economy is the difference between life and death. What stands out immediately is the fluidity of movement and attacking. In many tactical games, you move, then you attack, and your turn ends. In Blightstone, many melee attacks incorporate movement. You can charge, slash through an enemy, and end up behind them in one fluid motion. Even ranged characters have move attack options, which, full disclosure, I kept forgetting to use in my first few runs, and I paid the price for it. But the real star of the show is the reaction system. The enemies in Blightstone are smart, scarily smart. They remind me a lot of Kingdom Death Monster. They don't just stand there and take hits. If you attack them, they might trigger a reaction. A counterattack, a dodge, or a scream that alerts other enemies. They also have self-preservation instincts. I saw goblins realize they were low on health and retreat to cover. I saw enemies use suicidal abilities just to chip away at my crystal's armor. You have to respect every single enemy unit. There is no trash mob in this game. Even the smallest slime can ruin your day if you ignore it. Terrain and physics. The battlefield matters. You aren't fighting on a flat grid. There are trees, rocks, deep pits, and bushes. And this ties into the elemental affinity system. This is something I haven't seen done this way before. Certain spells require specific materials to be present on the map. Want to cast a rock barrage? You need to be standing near actual rocks. Want to use a nature bind? You need trees or bushes nearby. This forces you to read the map before you even engage. You might have a powerful druid on your team, but if you fight in a barren wasteland with no trees, half of their kit is useless. It adds a layer of improvisation that keeps the combat from feeling repetitive. Okay, we need to address the elephant in the room. The progression system. This is where Blightstone is going to divide the audience. This is a roguelite with a capital L. It relies heavily on meta progression. When you die, and you will die a lot, you collect crystals and strands of time. You take these back to the hub menu to buy permanent upgrades. We aren't talking about small buffs like plus 1% health. We are talking about massive game-changing upgrades. Plus 50% movement range, plus 30% base damage, the ability to revive a fallen hero, unlocking entire new classes and item pools. Here is the controversy. The game is hard-gated. In the early game, you are going to hit a brick wall. You simply will not have the stats to deal with the second or third boss. The game expects you to fail, grind currency, upgrade your stats, and try again. For some people, this is satisfying. It gives you a long-term goal. You feel your power growing with every run. You go back to the first biome and absolutely crush the enemies that used to bully you. For others, this can feel artificial. It can feel like the game is holding you back just to pad out the playtime. If you are a pure strategy purist who wants to win based solely on skill on your first try, Blightstone might frustrate you. You have to be okay with the grind. Personally, I think it works here because the core combat is fun enough that I didn't mind playing it again. But be warned. The first few hours are brutal until you unlock those essential movement and damage upgrades. You start with a basic trio, usually a warrior, a wizard, and an archer, or a dog companion, which is awesome. But as you play, you unlock more classes via special events or by defeating mini-bosses on the procedural map. What I love is that the skills are randomized every run. Your warrior might be a pure tank in one run, focused on taunting and blocking. In the next run, they might roll a bunch of berserker skills that trade health for damage. This prevents the meta-gaming problem where you just build the exact same team every time. You have to adapt to what the game gives you. The classes feel distinct. The archer is all about range and kiting, but requires ammo management. The wizard deals massive AoE but is squishy and needs line of sight. The dog, well, he bites things and is a good boy, but he can also be a surprisingly effective dodge tank. You can fully respec your crystal at any time, which encourages you to shift your strategy based on the heroes you pick up. If you find a glass cannon mage, maybe you spec your crystal into a tank to protect him. It's a flexible system that rewards experimentation. Outside of battle, Blightstone adopts a structure similar to FTL or Slay the Spire. You navigate a wireframe map full of nodes. Some nodes are battles, some are events, some are shops. But there is a twist: the day-night cycle. Every day you spend traveling moves the clock forward. When the day ends, you enter a camping phase. This is straight out of Darkest Dungeon. You have limited camp points to spend on healing, scouting the map, repairing gear, or reducing skill cooldowns. Do you spend your time healing your warrior who is at 10% HP? Or do you scout ahead to avoid an ambush? Because getting ambushed in this game is a death sentence. It messes up your starting formation, puts your crystal in danger, and gives the enemy a free turn. The weather system. The weather on the map isn't just cosmetic. Rain increases lightning damage but might make fire magic weaker. Fog. This is the worst. It hides enemy HP bars and their intent indicators. You have to guess what they are going to do. Blightstorms increases the corruption meter on your characters. This interacts with the loot system. You don't just find gold. You find food, beer, wood, herbs, and scrap. Remember how I said the druid needs trees? Some skills literally consume resources from your inventory. A healing potion might require herbs. A barricade skill might require wood. A morale boost might require beer. If you run out of wood, your builder class becomes useless. It forces you to prioritize loot nodes on the map. You aren't just looking for the best sword, you are looking for lumber just to keep your skills working. It's a resource management layer that adds a lot of depth. Let's be real, this game is hard. It is not cozy. It is not a relaxing turn-based game. It is stressful. The boss fights are genuine hurdles. They have massive health pools, heavy armor, and wide-range AoE attacks. They will charge at you. They will summon minions. You have to manage your action economy perfectly. If you waste an AP moving to the wrong spot, you might not have enough AP to put up a shield, and your crystal gets one shot. The game also features a cover system like XCOM. Standing behind a wall or a tree reduces the hit chance. But unlike XCOM, the percentages feel fair. Maybe I just got lucky, but I didn't experience too many 99% chance to hit and miss moments. The hitboxes feel accurate. However, the game punishes mistakes severely. There is very little room for error. If you position your healer one tile too far forward, they are dead. If you forget to check the enemy's movement range, your crystal is dead. If you're looking for a game to play while watching Netflix, this is not it. This demands your full attention. Visually, the game punches above its weight. The art style is crisp, clean 2D with detailed animations. The spell effects, especially the fire and lightning, look satisfyingly impactful. When you land a critical hit, the screen shakes just enough to make it feel heavy. The grimdark aesthetic is well realized without being too muddy or dark to see. However, the audio, this is one of my few complaints. The sound effects for combat are great, crunchy hits, sharp sword clashes. But the music, it's weird. It doesn't always fit the fantasy apocalypse vibe. Sometimes it sounds a bit generic or the tone is off. It's not bad, it's just not memorable. It lacks the haunting identity of Darkest Dungeon or the adrenaline of Hades. It's functional, but you might find yourself putting on your own playlist after a few hours. Also, purely on a technical level, I did encounter a few visual bugs. Sometimes the tooltip text would overlap, or a sprite would glitch out for a second. There were a few typos in the dialogue. Nothing that broke the game, but it shows that it's an indie title still in the polishing phase. So, before you buy Blightstone, if you are a fan of The Last Spell, Darkest Dungeon, or Into the Breach, this is a must-play. It carries the DNA of those games, but twists them into something unique with the crystal mechanic and the heavy focus on environmental interaction. It is a game made by people who clearly love the genre. You can feel the passion in the complex systems. They didn't just want to make a simple RPG, they wanted to make a system that challenges you to think 3 turns ahead. However, you need to have patience. You need to accept that you will lose your first 5, 10, maybe 20 runs. You need to be okay with grinding for strands of time to unlock that +1 action point upgrade. If you are looking for a casual RPG to breeze through, skip this. It will just make you mad. But if you want a game that respects your intelligence, punishes your mistakes, and gives you that incredible rush of dopamine when you finally outsmart a boss with 1 HP left, Blightstone is absolutely worth your time. Early access is now available. I highly recommend downloading the early access first. Play through the first timeline. If the combat hooks you, the full game is an easy recommendation. This is one of those just one more turn games that turns into just one more run until the sun comes up. And honestly, that is the highest praise I can give a roguelite. But hey, that's just my opinion. I'm just a guy who let his crystal get smashed by a goblin with a rock. So now I want to hear from you. Does the idea of an escort mission roguelite sound terrible or genius to you? And are you a fan of meta progression? Or do you prefer your roguelikes to be pure skill? Let me know in the comments down below. If you liked this video and found it helpful, clicking the like button helps us out a ton. And if you're new here, hitting subscribe is the best way to get our videos first. We cover the big games, the small games, and the weird games in between. Thanks for watching, protect your crystals, and we'll see you guys next time.